Very warm welcome to all our young members on the 6th day of 7 days executive program, which is the 6th batch in the series. My sincere gratitude to ICAI President CNAR Jambusaya sir, ICAI Vice President CA Dr. Devashish Mitra sir, ICAI Acting Secretary CA Dr. Jaykumar Batra sir. This program is an initiative of Committee for Members in Industry and Business under the leadership of Central Council members, Chairman C.A. Hansraj Chuksa and Vice Chairman C.A. Durgesh Kabra sir. My sincere gratitude to all Central Council members of ICAI for this encouragement and opportunity. We have been doing this since April 21st, which was from Jan 21st batch, and all the sessions which have happened are available in the recorded webcast area. Today is the second last day. We are coming close to it, but in case if you have missed the sessions or if you want to go back and check it, you can always check on the recorded webcast area or on ICAI YouTube channel. We are very thankful to you for the encouragement and positive feedback which you have given. We had speakers from all around the world, and everyone has been so happy seeing your enthusiasm to connect with them on LinkedIn or to encourage and support the different initiatives of ICAI. Everyone has been so sharing the knowledge, and everyone continuously wishes all our young members great success in all your endeavors. Today we have two sessions, very exclusive special sessions. The first session will be by CA Indrani, Dr. Indrani Hazarika, who comes from academia, and the second session on startups from our leadership in Abu Dhabi. Allow me to introduce CA Dr. Indrani Hazarika. Dr. Indrani Hazarika is a chartered accountant by profession. She is certified in IFRS from our institute and has received SAP Global Certification in Business Process Integration. Dr. Indrani, a gold medalist from Guwahati University, made humble beginning of her career as a research fellow in the Department of Commerce in Guwahati University after having qualified in the UGC, JRF, and NE. Currently, she is the Academic Program Chair for the Accounting Program at Higher Colleges of Technology, UAE. Dr. Indrani has to her credit publications in international journals and has been recognized for her contribution to UAE knowledge economy. Her research paper titled An Analytical Study on the Impact of Recent Oil Price Plunge on the Oil Exporting and Oil-Dependent Economies was awarded as the best paper by International Economics Research Development Center. Indrani has won laurels for her outstanding research in areas of fluctuating oil prices, blockchain, auditory engineering, circular economy, business analytics, HR metrics, quality earnings, digital banking solutions, cost control and reduction techniques. Impact of COVID-19 on the health sector, OPEC, and global tourism. She has presented her research papers in various international conferences, and to name a few, in Las Vegas in US, in the University of Münster, Germany, in American University, Dubai, Temple University, Philadelphia, World Trade Center, New York, ICAI Dubai Chapter, 2nd Global Labour Forum in India, ICEFA Conference in Manchester. Thank you so much, Indrani, for being here with us today and accepting our invitation. You have been a very supportive member in our chapter in Dubai. And as your profile said, that you have presented many times in our chapter. And today, the global audience, our young members from all over the world, are getting opportunity to listen to you. I would also like to share that we had recently signed an MOU with Higher Colleges of Technology, And Indrani plays a very important role in ensuring that we are able to activate the objectives of the memorandum. So Indrani, your contribution, you are a doctor in academia, but as a chartered accountant, first you are a chartered accountant, you have been contributing so much, and that makes a significant difference in everyone's life. Thank you for everything you do for our fraternity. And knowing you from so many years, I'm sure our young members will get a lot to learn from you in the topic you have chosen to share. And with this, I request all our young members to please give a big virtual round of applause for Dr. Indrani, Dr. C. Indrani, and Indrani, the floor is yours. Thank you. Yeah, Indrani, the screen is yours.
Yes, I'll just share the screen now. Okay, thank you, C. Pravdeep, for giving such a generous introduction. Indeed, it's my pleasure and pride to be a part of the CA fraternity. And without much delay, I would like to start my presentation. At the outset, I would like to thank the committee for members in industry and business for initiating this particular program to empower and educate our recently qualified chartered accountants who are the future business leaders of the nation. Our respected Chairman, C.A. Hanshraj, and Vice Chairman, C.A. Durgesh Kabra, my fellow colleagues, and my chartered accountant friends. You have a passion for the profession. Now we look forward for your value addition at global level in industry as well as to the world economy. You may ask or think to yourself, which even C.A. Prabhadeep has also asked me, why did I choose the topic role of innovation in business performance? We are supposed to be number crunchers, right? We did very well. We are concerned with performance analysis of an organization from ROA, inventories, all items of the balance sheet income statement. But we are not lagging behind in the role of innovation, which should not go unnoticed and unobserved, because we contribute in our capacity in the product development, which is external to the organization, process, and to the organization as a whole. Okay, let me make a humble beginning to what I know about innovation in business performance, and let me share with our young future leaders. Okay. The current pandemic actually is a testing time for all of us, because it has triggered an unprecedented global economic shutdown and is changing the way we live, work, and shaping our new normal. Till perhaps 2019 and December, we never knew that there will be a tremendous change which is consistent across the system, right? Now, every country is prioritizing the vaccination for COVID-19. We have one problem across the globe. Actually, I would say it is a unifying factor, though it has some adverse implications to the economy, to the people. Now, I would say innovation is common, or innovation is mandatory, I would say, to every field, whether it is to a mathematician, to a scientist, to a housewife in the kitchen, even to the business entrepreneurs. Now, something from Thomas Alva Edison. Actually, before I started with the presentation, I went through the quotes of some great entrepreneurs and leaders just to see what is the degree of focus or emphasis on innovation. Thomas Alva Edison, who needs no introduction, says, focus on how the end users, customers, perceive the impact of an innovation rather than how the innovators perceive it. Yes, suppose I'm in the manufacturing organization. I want to add 10 features of a product. But is the customer looking for it? Is the customer ready to pay for it? Or are those features required for the product? So see from the customer's perspective. Yes, integrate technology. To what extent? What is the demand of the product? What is the level of income of the people who will sought after that product? Whether it is a luxury or a necessity. Now, innovation, something from Steve Jobs I would like to say. Innovation we often see as an opportunity, not as a threat. Come out, think outside the box. Don't take it as a stress, don't take it as a weakness. Convert your weakness into your strength, a challenge into an opportunity. Go ahead with innovation in your mind. And young generation, I would say, you're the future business leaders. Resources of the country is in your hand. Integrate knowledge, skill, your education to do something for the nation in an innovative way without impairing the environment, keeping corporate governance, due diligence, professional ethics on one hand, sustainability on the other. So you have a lot of responsibilities as future business leaders. It doesn't come to an end once the financials are ready, analyzed and interpreted. No, accountants are no longer number crunchers. We are now responsible for data-led decision making. Innovation, as Steve Jobs, I just like to quickly run through the quotes, is the only way to win, to be ahead of the game. If two companies are producing butter, produce butter in a way which is liked by all your customers. So it is your way to innovate it. How you integrate the resources, technology, customers' experience and expectations. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. And sometimes, yes, a leader initiates and innovates. And followers, we all go for the same product thinking that we can capture a market share. But at one point of time, the demand for the product will decline. Okay. Now just let me give you a very simple example on real estate. When I was working in the capstone project with my students, in order to balance the demand and supply in real estate, what can we do with the excess supply of apartments or buildings? It is not rented out. No urge on the people to buy, especially in the time of the pandemic. They have come with ideas like vertical plantation. Use it. Here we have Expo 2021 knocking at the door. Use it for hotel apartments. Use it for some entertainment purpose. Use it for country's requirement, whichever area is needed. Maybe convert it into some hospitals when there is a need for the pandemic. So what happens? Find out alternative use of the products. Where you need what is innovation. Sometimes what happens, when you innovate, you make mistakes. The outcome of research and development may be zero. It is best to admit them quickly and adjust your innovative efforts. Channelize in the right direction. We learn from our failures. We learn from our mistakes. Am I right? Okay. All of you must have heard about Sam Walton, who was the founder of the retail market Walmart in US. He mentions our best ideas come from clerks and stock boys. So innovation, it requires participation by every employee in the organization. Top to bottom approach, bottom to top approach, I would say. We all need to participate, share our ideas. Individual goal coinciding with organizational goal. Bill Gates stated, I believe innovation is the most powerful force for changing the world. It is. Now, COVID-19 is a glaring example. And innovation is moving at a scarily fast pace. We need to be agile in our activities, easily adopt and change. No organization ever created an innovation. People innovate, not companies. Companies make profit. People innovate. They contribute, they add value to the organization. So those who have the agility, the ability to change and adopt will survive. And innovation is rewarded and execution is worshipped. This is something very important. I would like to put again thrust on it. Yes, we may come with multiple ideas, fantastic ideas. Now see the acceptability, suitability, feasibility of the idea. To what extent it can be executed. Great innovation only happens when people aren't afraid to do things differently. Yes, we also need courage, knowledge, skills, critical thinking. Not sit and think, okay, I'm going to innovate this. Is it really doable? Now we even have the option of 3D printers to have the prototype of the products without going for manufacturing a product directly. So a lot of options technology has given. So innovation should be a priority to corporate and national economic strategy. It's with innovation you can survive and sustain. Now, all of you are familiar with the name of Peter Drucker, who was the father of modern management. And he has emphasized the importance of innovation. He said, managing innovation has increasingly become a challenge to the management. And to top management, it is a touchstone of competence. So innovation is a yardstick which measures, which gauges the competence of top management. We want to see the change, not cost reduction, but increasing revenues through improvement in your products, introduction of new products. Your customers, how did you manage to reach them? How did you manage to satisfy customer requirement? I just like to state something here. We are all used to, say, inventory management, right? Your economic order quantity just in time. But now we have come across a situation where companies are leading the world. For example, Uber World, largest taxi company, owns no vehicle. Facebook creates no content. Alibaba, most valuable retailer, has no inventory. Just think, they are doing business with the help of what technology? Maybe an app through internet. Airbnb, largest accommodation provider, has no real estate. Basically, it is disruptive technology which is fundamentally changing the business model. Initial concept of business, we buy and we sell. Now we sell without buying, without having our inventory. Technology has changed the way we are doing business in the present. We are reaching to the customers at global level. So, knowledge is the source of wealth, and applied to task, already we know it becomes productivity. Yes, we enhance the productivity of man, machine, material, through training, to improve raw material. But when applied to tasks that are new, it becomes innovation. You try to do something new. Now again, I'd say give the example of Zomato, owns no restaurants. Right? So we can come with innumerable examples when we talk of innovation. It's a new way of doing things. Doing things, but measure the outcome, how you do your business or how you innovate. Marketing and innovation, all accounting, I would say all chartered accountants, accounting graduates, I would say, please correct me if I am wrong. If I say marketing and innovation produce results, all the rest are cost. Think of your income statement. what marketing does. Sometimes you may not be able to spend a heavy amount on advertising, on marketing a product. Your sales revenue may not increase proportionately. You innovate, you invest in research and development, right? The outcome may be your sales revenue just zooms, or the outcome may be zero. So you need to take risk. See the factors affecting your enterprise risk management. Some statistics regarding innovation I would like to share with you from Global Innovation Index. Basically, this ranking is done by WIPO, World Intellectual Property Rights Organization. The Global Innovation Index is an annual ranking of countries by their capacity for and success in innovation, what they do for innovation and how they succeed. And every year, Global Innovation Index ranks the innovation performance of more than 130 countries around the world. And according to the reports of Global Innovation Index 2020, India ranked 48 among 31 countries. So we still need to go higher with all our innovative efforts. And with the current pandemic, we can see a lot of innovation in the health system. And that is our priority, right? Sustainability of health, financial sustainability, health sustainability. Then comes your environment sustainability, economic sustainability, and other areas which we never dreamt of actually, especially in India or anyway, remote working, distance education, e-commerce, and mobility solutions, moving from one place to another. Now there are so many restrictions, whether for air travel or even at global level, at local level you want to move from one place to another. You need to have your COVID test done. You need to observe all the protocols. So how we can provide solution to these particular areas? Think of some innovative ideas. Remote working. Remote working, on the other hand, we will save the office space. So how are you going to utilize it? How are you going to say we have some savings in the energy level? So in distance education, how you make it fruitful for our students who are going to graduate maybe with distance education. So these are some innovative ideas. Integrate technology, integrate your ideas, your objectives, critical thinking, and contribute to the world economy. Because as I told you, we have disruptive technology, and the technology tools which are available with us are big data, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, process automation. So these are the tools available in our hand. Now how you use it to bring a change, it's your call. Especially an appeal to the young future business leaders who are listening to this presentation today. Some of the initiatives launched by Government of India under Innovation Scheme, Startup India Initiative, Accelerating Growth of the New India's Innovation. A few are just Smart City Mission, New Intellectual Property Rights. So these are some of the initiatives taken by Government of India. And when we have seen that the pandemic has widespread disruption adversely affecting global business and economy. GDP of every country is affected, and especially when you see tourism, hospitality, travel tourism and hospitality. A lot of employment, job loss in those particular sectors, loss in the revenue generated. So we need to come up with innovative solutions in order to address what you have been going through in the current scenario. So first thing, as the world, the new normal business leaders now think of the most innovative technology for business continuity. You need to continue your business. Resilience from and emerge stronger from the crisis. What we need to do for the business. Okay. Now with digital transformation of business, digital disruption and digital tools and technologies, The world looks for new categories of innovators with new solution for new categories of customers, citizens, and patients. We have now customers. Now we'll come across situation. Now you don't have to go and search for a brand. It comes to you. All specification you just need to put in the internet for the product you're browsing. It will be in your house maybe within a week's time. So we can see of course, we have to have access for digital payments. So with digital transformation of business, we have to provide new solutions for our customers, citizens, and patients. These are the needs I'm talking. Very soon I'll come to how we measure it and how we need to go about it. So new ways of learning, producing, healing, trading is emerging worldwide with huge investment in, see the words, intellectual property, data, and knowledge. Connects data and territories in the world in order to develop global wealth in a sustainable manner. As I told you, you need to have now data-led decision making. Okay. Business models need to adapt. Design thinking, think outside the box. Develop product for the people from whom we are designed. Think of the features the customer is looking for. Design the product with multiple experience for customers. Create a culture of innovation. For example, as I mentioned, a recently formed business achieved huge valuations like Amazon, Uber, Zomato, as they have successfully exploited technology in one hand, no doubt about it, and understood the changing taste of customers. So how you embed culture of innovation, empathize, get to know your customers, define, conceptualize their ideas, build a prototype. You don't have to start a company to build a prototype or a manufacturing unit. We have the 3D printers giving us this service. Test the product when it is commercially emergence. Implement and see if it runs well in the market, if it is demanded. Go ahead with it. And another thing I would like to mention, see the desirability. Is the product really wanted by the customers? Should we do this? Do we have the viability? Can we do it? The feasibility, technological, financial, your manpower. Are they being able to execute it, right? So think outside the box, design thinking, develop product with multiple experience for customers. Now with new organizations, with digital technologies, we need to have digital skills in our workforce, right? Just few skills for students. I've just mentioned a few. Critical thinking, creative thinking, communicating and collaborating. Critically analyze. Enhance your analytical skills. Creative way of doing things. Just giving you a very simple example. All of you have qualified in your chartered accountancy exams very recently. Most of you must be all referring to the same study material, writing the same questions, right? Again, I would say your innovative skills, your critical thinking, the way you present the answers in the exam within 3 hours, that matters a lot, right? And new ways of thinking would include analytical skills, critical thinking, creativity and design, strategic thinking. It should be related to the business strategy. Design thinking, a customer-centric process for rapid innovation. Not for augmenting your revenue, but for customers. How do you enlarge your customer base? So paradigm shift has been seen in brands and consumers for global accessibility. And there is value addition to the business. Okay, if the market doesn't do well at local level, yes, through wide network, sales channels and customers, you can internationally market your products. Once it was the consumer that sought out the brand, and today brand must increasingly come to them. If you want to sustain, because the same type of product may be made by 10 manufacturers at a minimum, I would say. So the least cost advantage with the best experience a customer would sought after. And I'm sure you must have come across this word, brand atomization, that has a cascading effect, way to implement a segmentation plan that focuses on small market segments that we even reach down. It's a micro level marketing, I would say, where you reach down to the individual. Now, this type of implementation, those who buy customized and expensive products and services, integrating customer expectations and experience. And this sort of brand atomization will revolutionize the way brands offer interesting and increasing experience for customers. Now, again, I told you, we are all familiar with the financial measures and non-financial measures of business, right? Balance scorecard, profitability ratios, solvency ratios. Now something else would come with the digital transformation of business. Scale number of people interested or who visited your website. So you can definitely take up action and see what the customers are looking for. Active usage, daily or monthly active users who are using your website, who are buying your products. Engagement, time spent on site, on the website, how much time is spent. Okay, initially I think it was mostly for booking our air tickets or looking for medicines or some other products. Now for anything you want to buy, you need to spend time on the website, and I'm sure we are all engaged, involved, actively involved as users. Okay. There is a problem in the sharing. I'll just take a sorry, I just had to change that, it got hung. The COVID-19, it is almost like a catalyst to innovation in many traditional sectors, and common pillars of innovation here are human capital and research, infrastructure, market sophistication, business sophistication, knowledge, technology outputs, and creative output. Your pillars of innovation, how you gauge your innovation, will be not restricted to, but these are some of the parameters. I think it looks a little light, but I'll just read out from here. Firms that invest more in branding, they have high returns on research and development. Some of the companies with heavy investment on research are Toyota, Shell, Saudi Aramco, Samsung, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen. And in America, this is the amount, $1 billion was spent, and it's on Amazon, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Walmart. They spend more on branding, on research and development, on innovation, I would say. Okay. As I mentioned in the beginning, my topic is role of innovation in business performance. One of the key areas which I would like to highlight here is environment sustainability, I would say, ecological challenge between footprints and handprints, how you balance. All of you are familiar with the word carbon footprints, right? Release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now, these are some of the tips and techniques by which you reduce the average reduction in carbon emission in the environment per year in tons. Leave car free. Okay, no vehicles, battery operated cars, less long haul for flights per year, renewable energy, use public transport, have your houses constructed or refurnished in a different way, have a vegan diet, improve cooking equipment, renewable based heating. Now, We are all familiar with carbon footprints. Now we have come across another term, which is the carbon handprint. It is basically to evaluate. You can consider this as one of the performance standard measure of a company to evaluate actions taken to mitigate environmental impact and quantify the positive impacts of a product life cycle. Suppose measure the carbon footprint of a product. Then after introduction of new solutions or new technology, again see the carbon footprint. The difference is your carbon handprint. Comparing the footprint of the new solution used by customers to that of the old solution, handprint of a product. So basically that has, by initiating the efforts to reduce carbon footprints, you provide or you come up with a new solution to be used by the customers. And the purpose of using carbon handprint is to calculate positive climate impacts of a product provided to customers. Climate change we all talk about. Now let us take one step ahead, reduce the carbon footprint. Another thing I would like to introduce, I think all of you have heard about micromobility, travel solution for short distance. In our country. And then, of course, innovation, financing, startups, scale-ups, and mature company. Finding proper financing is crucial for innovation ecosystem, right? So, first thing we need to develop an innovation-intensive economy. We had capital-intensive economy. We heard about labor-intensive economy. Now go for an innovation-intensive economy, which requires companies to have the capacity to repeat the development of innovation at every stage. Not that innovate and stop. It's a continued process. Do not only rely on the development of profitable products, but also on the extension of knowledge and exploration of unknown concept. Mature companies are confronted with this challenge similar to the startups. Now, innovation output index, to the benefit of time, I will maybe go a little fast here. Knowledge creation, knowledge impact, knowledge diffusion, create intangible assets, creative goods, and online creativity. These are the inputs which prompts us to innovate, and these are our innovative outputs. And innovation, one of the research papers on innovation and business performance, which explores the types and combination of innovation that have greatest impact on business performance. It was on product and process. The survey was done by UK Innovation Survey. It was done in UK and shows that product process are particularly effective in business performance. Product and process innovation are the core, encouraging more business to be innovative, and there has to be a crucial policy direction across all business. And here there is a positive relation which I would like all of you to register in your mind between competition, innovation, and productivity. With the product and process innovation having the potential to lead, increase efficiency, quality, reduce cost, or open up market. So competition, innovation, and productivity in one hand, in the product you are developing, in the process which is internal, and it will have an impact in increasing your efficiency, quality, cost, and open up new markets. These are some of the product development ideas, 70-20-10. How to allocate time and resource in making successful innovation. Agile innovation process, it splits up larger projects into simpler and manageable tasks so that you reassess the strategies for completing them. Business canvas is again a template. It has the following terms. It identifies key partners, resources, activities, value, customer relation, cost structure, and revenue streams. Then concept screening. This is again a model which narrow down the ideas for generation of a new product or service. Context canvas, it is in the light of environment, when a product or service is being created. I'm sure all of you have heard about crowdfunding. Now it is crowdsourcing, where you gather the ideas from the crowd or the stakeholders, right? Then customer empathy map. It is a strategic tool used to develop a thorough understanding of the business or the client who will be using the product. Then you have design thinking, disruptive innovation, customer, this is again problem solving team. Ethnographic research, we are used to market survey. Now it is the ethnographic research, gathering method for obtaining data about people's needs, desires, and preferences. Some are effortless innovators, unintentional, no innovation capacity. This is the competence of the innovators, right? Sometimes you innovate unconscious stars. You do something and the results are outstanding. Thinking about innovation, potential stars, and world-class innovators. And commitment, low, when in case of effortless, unintentional, no innovation capacity, and high commitment in case of potential stars and world-class innovators. Then minimum viable product, basically it resembles a survey, a sample which we distribute to able to share with the stakeholders for the purpose of collecting feedback and test assumption. And rapid prototyping for quickly reacting to mock-ups, models, or renderings of a product or service. So these are the models you can use when you start or you think of innovating a product or service. Then brainstorming, which is opposite of brainstorming, I would say. You talk about the problems the industry is facing or a particular product or service. And finally, an acronym, SCAMPER, improving existing products or services for substitute, combine, adopt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse. So innovation, have a unique product. Technology, have in-house design capability and serve demanding customers. Because innovation enhances business performance. Because of the product of innovation increases competitiveness and process of innovation transforms internal capabilities, making it more adaptive to change. These are some of the innovation model. First generation model was only a push model, integrating technology. Then market pull, which is for marketing the products like market need, development, manufacturing, and sales. Then you have third generation, state of the art of technology, which is new need, idea generation technology, research, prototype production. It is on a broader scale and it entails a lot of activities. Then you have the fourth generation model, which engineers and managers combine. And finally, the fifth generation model, which calls for system integration and networking, increasing the number of international strategic alliances through mergers, through business acquisitions. Maybe there is organic growth, increasing awareness of supply chain, and system integration is made possible by information technology. So these are just a data of 2020, innovation in product development in technology platform. The black one shows weak growth, blue one shows strong growth. Technology platform, big data, mobile, digital design, supporting capabilities, customer channel, artificial intelligence. Some of the developed innovations in product worldwide as in 2020 after the COVID-19. Then digital adoption by industries. Regular users are in gray color, you can see, and the first time users are in black. So banking, already 51% in US adopted digital online transactions, 40% in entertainment. These were all regular users. And after COVID-19, we can see the rise here, 21, 24, 31 in grocery, apparel 31, utilities 9%, telecom, travel 6%, and insurance. So upscale organization for accelerated digital world, and focus digital efforts use new data and artificial intelligence to improve business operations and increase organizational drumbeat, your capacity, your capability within the organization. So business, first you need to continue your business, analyze, solution design, implement, testing and maintenance. Work from home, work simply plus IT solutions will bring in success to your organization. So this is just a 6-step model actually. It was developed in the post-COVID area. So 4 P's, we're all used to marketing, now it is in COVID. People, lives of workers and family, process, profit, revenue generation, and partnership. Now, we are all, even the chartered accountants will be considered as business partners in business transformation, all digital transformation of business. So 5 key areas where we need to work and recover, understand, and model demand. What is your business model? And leverage the right data analytics to achieve. Store and e-commerce forecast. Profit and loss forecasting, unavoidable for us. Know your customers, their needs to prepare for another shift in customer expectation. Invest in customer loyalty programs, customer data and technology. Examine the business model and partnership, supply chain and what the associated risks are in each area. So on fulfillment, home delivery, AI, machine learning, process automation. Demonstrate the purpose. Why you want to go for a change, why you want to innovate. Must contribute to the community by putting, now every organization focus on 2 areas, knowledge and people ahead of profit. Rethink your business. And investment in new technologies to improve the efficiency of supply chain management, which has been disrupted because of COVID-19, right? Supply of raw material, even finished goods, how you cater to your customers. Then, as I have mentioned, financial technology, fintech is completely disrupting the traditional banking sector. Uber, the traditional model for passenger service, and many disruptive business rely on smartphone applications and internet-based transaction. So I think almost coming to an end. One last thing I would say, think of a circular economy, waste to wealth. Forget about the linear economy, take, make and dispose. Now go for restorative and regeneration by intention and design, right? So think of the ecosystem. For example, ICAI is aiming to be a fully circular business by 2030 to innovative reusage packaging model. So instead of take, make and dispose, now try to extract something from the waste. Okay? And these are intelligent enterprise. We all look forward to using data in a smart way to become more innovative and achieve high degree of operating efficiency. And increasing level of automation, it's defining the way business is operating. So these are some of the references, and thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Indrani, for your wonderful session in the last 15 minutes.
Shall I stop sharing the screen?
Yes, Indrani. Yeah, that will be better. Yeah, so thank you so much, and so detailed presentation you have shared on the subject, innovation, and really it's a need of the hour. And when I see
you asked me one question, sorry to cut in. You asked me one question at the beginning. Why did I pick up innovation? Because we chartered accountants have also proved that we are not lagging behind in innovation. We are no longer number crunchers. That is why I chose this topic today.
Yeah, and sometimes we question that the chartered accountants are not coming into startups. But I see a large number of our members, they are involved in startups. And the further thing, all the CFOs of the startups are Indian chartered accountants only. And CFOs, play a very important role these days in the startups. They are a very integral part of the organization. And they also get into innovation. So it's not like, a CFO would be set aside and will only be looking at some of the things. They are key key management team, and that's what I believe will be shared with our learned speakers in the next session. On Indrani, I have sometimes a point in my mind, which sometimes to my students also. Sometimes I have taken some classes and I have shared examples of how the organizations have innovated, and we generally talk that the organization life size is decreasing, and the organizations fail to innovate is the reason that why the organization's life is decreasing. We used to say that earlier, if the organization size was 100 years, then it decreased to 70, 50, then we say 20, 10, and now we have been saying that since the pandemic has been there for almost 18 months, the businesses are at a very high risk of surviving. So, but on the other side, when I see the organizations like IBM or Apple or Microsoft, they have been, continuously innovating and changing their business model. I think IBM is the organization which has reinvented themselves very continuously. So whether it would be right for us to generalize that the organization's life size is decreasing because they are not able to innovate, or we say that no, there are many organizations who have existed for 40, 50 years or more than that. What's your view on this?
It depends on the product life cycle, first of all. Competitors. So, okay, let me give you a very simple example. Let us say company is only producing butter. Only butter, right? It will have competitors in the market. Scope of integrating technology is less, but you can reach to customers if you develop, if there is product development, product diversification, or you can say market penetration, you cater to some international customers, or you change the way, suppose you're producing butter, some ancillary products which can be produced along with butter. Say, right. I'll tell you, if it is a car, if it is a mobile phone, or you can say electronic items, the scope of development is more. You can diversify the product, you can integrate technology. Let me say a particular, say, shopping unit which only sells raw vegetables, which are perishable in nature. Either they have to add a new product, go for new customers, or change the way they are performing the business, their process. Because at the end of the day, their business may end today or tomorrow.
Yeah, true.
Their investment is only in vegetables which are perishable in nature. So it has to be innovative, intensive industry.
Right. Yeah, true. You talked about vegetables, and what I noticed, when the pandemic started, there were many restaurants who were closed for a long time. And some of the restaurants had developed their own online models in Dubai. I'm talking about, you live in Dubai, yes. I also live in Dubai. And they added vegetables to their line of service. Now we are talking about that if it's only a vegetable shop, then how they can innovate? Very little for it. But on the other side, restaurants...
Somebody can, yes, add that as a product line.
Yeah, so, and it's not just one or two restaurants. I have seen many restaurants. Almost I can count 10 restaurants on now who have successfully do this. And they have been continuing for more than a year. And that's the reason. And I think that was very smart move. It was a very small move, but for them to survive, it was a very smart move for them, I believe.
Exactly.
And the example which is significantly for me, I had in one of our earlier session also talked about it, that how Fujifilm went into the cosmetics business because of their expertise in chemicals, and they have been able to do good. And we talk about Kodak being a failure, being not able to innovate. And Similarly, very common examples, we talk about the mobile phones, smartphones, we talk about.
Hmm.
Here also, if we see now the Apple and Samsung smartphone rules, and there are many other brands from China which have been doing extremely well. But IBM was the first, what I understand, what I read, was the first organization which had developed a smartphone many years back, I think in somewhere early 1990s. But I think the way Apple has innovated
Definitely.
and has concentrated on 4 or 5 products, it has really changed the way the market looks at. And it is only, I think, just a couple of days back that Microsoft touched the valuation of $2 trillion. But otherwise, it was only Apple which was above $2.2 trillion, and it's maintaining its valuation. And earlier we used to say that Steve Jobs is the one who has made a big difference, but the leadership which has come later on
Yeah.
also have been able to. And so, what's your view that what's your view that for these technology companies like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Google, we talk about? I think these are the best examples of innovation, or are there any other examples also which are
I
there
would
in the market?
say they are the best. The first thing is their focus.
Right.
They are only going for the products within those areas. You'll not
Uh,
see Apple. That makes a lot of difference and gives a competitive advantage in terms of the resources. If you audit their resources, their core
right.
competency, whether the threshold or the core, the limit of whatever core competency they have, their value drivers, critical success factors, all are connected to those industries. And any other
Right.
competitor is not being able to take over that.
Yeah, true.
So they not only
Yeah,
sustaining, I would say profitable or in
yeah,
terms of net
yeah,
worth.
yeah. If you see Facebook, I was reading just few days back that Instagram, many years back, I think in 2013 when Facebook acquired Instagram. So Mark Zuckerberg had seen Instagram as a threat at that point of time,
Oh,
and they acquired to keep Instagram as separate. Now, if we talk about 900 something billion, the valuation of Facebook, more than 50% valuation of Facebook
come
is
from
because
Instagram.
of Instagram, when there is Facebook also, Instagram also. I think the organizations, when they are able to see, I think in startups that will come, there is a joke on a startup I read in a rework that startups are something who do not care about whether they make revenue or not, who are ready to spend as much money on the expenses of the investors,
Company.
and the investors will look at an exit strategy. And people were comparing that on the day of your marriage, whether you will go to a divorce lawyer also, though now there are prenuptial agreements and people do go to lawyers, but it was
Exactly.
said that whether you go. So those are the things I'm really geared up to see what's next in the session for startups. And sincere gratitude to you,
Thank you
Indrani, for
so much.
for taking out time. And I think there have been very few of our faculties who are purely into the full time. You are full time into academics, and I think this individual session is only done by you. We had Dr. Malika Ramanathan, who was part of a panel. She is now retired from American University of Dubai, but she didn't did an individual session. And you have been, I think, the only one who is full time into academia, and that makes a significant difference. And there are
Thank you
very
so much.
few chartered accountants who are abroad into this, and sincere gratitude. And your insights which have been shared today will make a big difference in the lives of a
Thank you
young.
so much. My privilege and pleasure. And wishing
Yeah.
all our future young leaders, chartered accountants, all the best in your career so that you aspire higher. We read in newspapers as you are leading innovators and
Right.
wishing you good health and happiness. Stay safe and healthy, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Since it
so much.
Yeah, you're right. Our sincere gratitude to our chairman, C. Hans Rachuk sir, and vice chairman, C. Durgesh Kabra sir, because of which we have been seeing all speakers, including Indrani. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we move on to our next session. And before we move on, my warm welcome to our moderator of our next session, CA John George, and our two esteemed speakers, CFIRs, Mela Kara and CA Tarun Khandelwal. Allow me to introduce CA John George, who will be moderating and hosting our two esteemed speakers today. CA John is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He has over 18 years of qualification experience in India and Middle East. He presently works in Abu Dhabi as the Group Financial Controller with Emirates Business Group, a leading holding companies in the UAE with business across a broad spectrum of industries. John is currently serving as the Vice Chairman of our chapter in Abu Dhabi. John has been part of our Abu Dhabi chapter committee for the last 7 years. He is passionate about the chapter and wants to use his experience to take the chapter to new heights for the benefits of our members and community. He is an active Toastmaster as well. John has conducted several training programs and seminars for clients and employees on VAT, IFRS, and other related technical topics. He is also a faculty on VAT, the Overseas Office of ICAI in Dubai. He has also made presentations and moderated panel discussion at various forums. Warm welcome, John, and all our esteemed panelists. John, thank you so much for putting together this session, which I'm sure will make a big difference and very few, since we started this series in April 21st. Startups is a topic which has not been covered very minutely. We might have looked into it, and I'm sure the insights which will be shared today will make a big difference in the lives of our young members. Let me tell you that I have been, when I see the LinkedIn posts, I have been seeing a lot of our members have been involving themselves in developing, in making a start successful. So I'm sure you are present here today, or who will watch this session later, as it will be available on the webcast link, and ICIC YouTube channel will will make a big difference to their lives. So, John, you have always been very passionate, as I have spoken in your introduction. Let me tell our young members that, when the VAT came to Dubai in UAE, and it was launched in 2018, it came into implementation from Jan 1st, 2018. John was a very strong support and faculty for dissemination of knowledge of VAT for our members. The sessions used to happen in Dubai, a 3-hour session, and John used to spend 4 hours to travel from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, maybe 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. It takes at least 1.5 hours, but you need to spend more time also when you have to go far to another city, right? You need to reach on time. So for a 3-hour session, I can safely say that John used to spend 4 hours in traveling. Because of his passion, he used to come so far and take the sessions. And really, there have been many of our faculties who come from Dubai also to Abu Dhabi for IFRS or for the other things. But I would say, John, that your passion is unmatchable, because at that point of time we were continuously running 4 or 5 batches of VAT for dissemination of knowledge, because very quickly we had to, and in every batch you were a contributor. So thank you so much. I have been seeing your work in Abu Dhabi chapter, which you have been making a big difference, as your profile also says that you have been there for the last 7 years. You have been very passionate, outspoken, and again, thank you for all what you do, and thank you for accepting our invitation to host our two esteemed speakers today. And before I hand over to John for introducing our speakers and taking the session on, I request all our participants to please give a big virtual round of applause to John and my warm welcome to John, Faiz, and Tarun. Thank you so much. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. When you talk about the VAT, you take me 3 years back. And instead of you appreciate me, I should appreciate you. The reason because the VAT was fairly new in UAE. And we are not used to tax here.
Right.
But the way you have organized the things, you have identified the faculties by running a program, and you have arranged the training programs for almost all the members in UAE. Right. That's a commendable job you have done.
Thank you.
And moreover, you have you arranged a booklet, a handbook of VAT.
Yeah.
Very fast. Within a few days, you arranged a handbook. That's a commendable job as well.
Yeah, John, as you have talked about the publication, and let me tell you, at that point of time, GST and Indirect Taxes Committee had chairman CM Madhukar Hirigange, who is based in Bangalore. And his passion, allowed us to do many things. And there were many contributors who from India, like Ashish Chaudhary, Jatin Harjai, Rajesh. And as you said that in very short time we did. And that's the fact that, in 10, 15 days we had put together a soft copy. And we were working like day and night because our chairman of the committee said that if we are not able to bring it out on time, then it won't be of use. So that was how, everyone was fully into it and we managed. Yeah.
Thank you, Pradeep ji, and good evening, everyone. I think we can go to the subject, straight to subject. It's on startup. I think this topic is really exciting. And we have two experienced speakers, who agreed to become our panelists. So I will introduce them shortly. Before that, I just to thank our president, CA Nihar Jabusaria, and our vice president of ICAI, Dr. Debashish Mitra. And on behalf of ICAI Abu Dhabi chapter, I would like to express thanks to CA Ansaraji, chairman of Committee for Members in Industry and Business, and CA Durgesh Kabraji, vice chairman of the committee, for giving this opportunity to ICAI Abu Dhabi chapter to participate in this valuable 7-day executive development program. As a chapter, we value this program very high. Thank you once again, Pradeep ji, for your introduction, and really appreciate your commendable job in UAE. I also take this opportunity to convey the greetings of our chairman, CA Neeraj Atholia, and committee members at ICAI Abu Dhabi chapter, to all participants. As I said, today I'm really excited to moderate this panel discussion on startups. We have today very well experienced chartered accountants who is really eligible to talk on startup. And they have a real core experience in financing, in investing startups. So the fortunate thing is that both are the members of our chapter. So let me read the profile. Let me introduce CA Farun Kandelwal. Farun is a senior management professional with 25 years of experience, of which the last 10 years has been C-level roles like CFO, CEO, MD. He has board-level experience and expertise in investments, corporate finance, and financial management. He has a successful track record of deal closures like mergers and acquisition, in excess of USD 500 million across different sectors. He has participated in debt restructuring of debt in excess of 2.5 billion US dollar. I am cut shorting his profile because of the lack of time. Tyrone is currently the managing director of Ad Advisory Partners, a corporate finance advisory firm based in Abu Dhabi. Tyrone is a qualified chartered accountant and a CFA USA. He has also completed the CP Australia program. Tyrone is passionate about teaching corporate finance, investing, and mentoring tech startups. He was previously a board member of CFA Society Emirates and a consultant to CFA Institute USA. He has investment over 10 startups and he has funded 40 startups through a venture capital. Welcome, CA Tarun, to this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John.
Next, let me introduce CFIS Mailakara. CFIS is a director of investments at Emirates Investment Authority, the sovereign wealth fund for United Arab Emirates. Faiz reports directly to the CEO of Emirates Investment Authority. During his tenure, Faiz has been responsible for building the private equity and strategic investments for Emirates Investment Authority, having invested and managed in excess of $5 billion of assets. Faiz is currently the shareholder representative on Emirates Post Group, Al Masraf Bank, and Arab Insurance Group. Faiz is responsible for leading the restructuring of these assets from a shareholder perspective. Again, I am cut shorting his profile. It's too big. You will learn from him in the due course. Faiz was ranked in the top 30 SWF investors by Trusted Insight magazine for 2 consecutive years, 2017 and 18. As an investor and entrepreneur, Faiz is passionate about building business. Faiz is an executive graduate and alumni of Harvard Business School. Faiz received bachelor's degree in business administration from University of Madras and is a chartered accountant from Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Faiz also sits on the board of Harvard Business School Club for GCC. Welcome, Faiz.
Thank you so much, John, for the kind introduction.
Thank you for joining with us today. And I think that all participants are fortunate today to have you here, seeing your experience in startup. Before we continue with the panel discussion, let me lay down a brief about startup. Startup is not a new concept. Many large organizations of today was a startup of yesterday. Even the great Reliance we have today was a startup once upon a time. The most recent, the big techies like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, they were a startup once. But today the scale and magnitude of startups have changed. A startup can become a zero value to $1 billion value in a few months. As Abu Dhabi chapter, we always encourage startup entrepreneurs. Many well-known entrepreneurs attended our annual seminars like Mr. Narayan Murthy from Infosys, Mr. Velumani from Theocare, and many more. But as a chartered accountants experience as with the new chartered accountants, we are very much connected to the startups in the form of investing in a startup or as a part of consultancy or as a part of merger and acquisition deal, arranging funds or arranging the selling and buying of a startup, employment in a startup. So the opportunities for chartered accountants in a startup business is huge. You have a space for everywhere. I hope that all the participants today will benefit from this today's panel discussion. India maintained its position among the top 5 startup ecosystem globally. Around 7,000 new startups were founded in 2020. And total deal of funding in India touched around $10 billion in 2020. You see the amount of the value in startups, and every year, day by day, it is increasing, year by year is increasing. So the opportunities in startups in various stages, we have an opportunity there. The number of unicorns means the value of company more than 1 billion is growing rapidly in India. India have 32 unicorns and over 40,000 startups recognized from various states. We know about Paytm. Paytm remained the most valuable startup in India with a value of $16 billion. And the second is Byju's, and the third is Oyo Rooms. So the list goes on. I'm not going to details about that. I just want to give a background before we go into details so that you have the feel of it. Let me tell a story of 2 friends from IIT who worked in a private organization in Delhi. They go out for lunch and they see people waiting in the queue for lunch. And a country like us, it's maybe sometimes too crowded. You don't get a chance to look at the menu and wait. I want this item. By that time, the next guy is waiting for the food. So he sees the real problem. And Dibendra Goyal and Pankaj Chadha came up with the idea to solve the problem to avoid queue. So they start a startup, Pudibe, and later on it became a Zomato. Today Zomato is coming up with an IPO. The company is valued around $5.4 billion. And now many IPOs are on the line to list in the stock exchange. So it's a great idea how it shapes the life of others. I think startup is one of the greatest form of which makes a world a better place. I quote, if necessity is the mother of great invention, then empathy is the mother of great ideas. As for the survey, the timing of startup is more important. For example, Airbnb initially thought that they could not able to rent any house because why somebody should rent. But the timing was so perfect that that point of the recession where people need some extra money, they start renting their house. Similarly, Uber, the drivers need extra money. So timing was so perfect. So I'm not going to further details. I just gave an overview. We have to hear from the real guys who are into it. So let me go to the panel. Let me start with Sia Tarun. Sia Tarun, how have you landed up in this startup world? Can you just give a quick background of yours in startup?
A lot of it is by accident. You obviously end up reading a lot about startups and a lot of activity that's happening till somebody close to you actually starts a company, and you think that they're doing a good job. So you lend some expertise to them. You know, they reach out to you either for some advice or some guidance or for some connections. And then before you know it, you are hooked. You are hooked to the energy they bring to the table. You are hooked to the technology that they want to develop. You are hooked to the disruption they want to get to the market, and you are hooked to a better society that they're looking at creating. And so that's how the journey kind of gets started, at least in my case. And once it started, connections happened, and ended up with investing in over a dozen startups and a few funds.
Great, CA Tarun. Let me ask the same question to CFIs as well. This is a big world. How you jump into this? It's not so risky. How you came to this particular world of startup?
Yeah, thank you, John. Just like Tarun mentioned, I think it was not by design for me; it was by accident. So, as you mentioned, I work for Emirates Investment Authority, looking after private equity and global investment. So, one of the things that I did back in 2015 was trying to sort of expand the portfolio from private equity into venture. So, I spent a lot of time talking to fund managers out of the Valley, India, China, Southeast Asia, trying to figure out, how to allocate capital into venture for my firm. Obviously, they have, huge, portfolio of assets, and we are trying to sort of diversify that. So I spent like 2-3 months talking to, all these managers, trying to connect with people in the ecosystem to sort of figure out a strategy and how to access venture, how to allocate capital. After 3 months of work, my firm decided that it was not for them because we are very conservative in terms of our capital allocation. So they were not able to sort of figure out how to allocate capital in risky assets like venture capital where you don't see much cash flows. So that plan was sort of discarded at that point in time. But as Tarun said, you get hooked onto this, the energy that you see, the ideas that you see, and by 2015-16, you knew that the technology was everything. If you're not in technology and related investments, you're probably not at the edge of what's happening in the future. So I decided that because I'd sort of seen what was going on, I would rather deploy a little bit of my own capital as an angel and started investing into opportunities that I was seeing through my network. That's how I landed up in the angel investing side.
Thank you, CFIs. But you have invested around 50 startups.
Yeah.
Can you say some successful startups, and what is the formula for success you find in that?
Yeah, look, I think each person has their own angle. I think for me, obviously, I look at meta themes in terms of what's going on across the globe. As the previous the speaker was talking about, every industry is being disrupted, right? So because of technology advancement, every company will have to go through a phase. So there are industries that you understand better from your past experience. There are industries like fintech and logistics and so on, so healthcare that I've spent time on. I was able to sort of quickly understand what was going on in the sector and how do you deploy capital. There are other sectors like AI and crypto and so on and so forth. It requires deep tech understanding. So I sort of went into areas of interest for me, such as fintech, and try to sort of explore ideas as to how do we what are the ideas that are really going to be disruptive, right? So I connected with fund managers and saw opportunities from them and started investing. Now 50, so I've done like 50 plus investments. The hit ratio in venture is if you get 1 out of 10 home runs, then you sort of make up for the whole deployment of capital that you've done. But if you can better that in terms of more than 1, then you're really a winner. So within my portfolio, it's still early. I've been investing for the last 4 or 5 years. I typically think that you're very lucky if you sort of, have exits in a couple of years, but typically it takes like 4 to 8 years. So if you take, let's say, for example, Coinbase or Airbnb, these are companies that were established back in 2008. It took them 10, 12 years to sort of, build those businesses. So it's not easy. You only see the success later on, but they've spent like 10, 12 years to build that business. In my portfolio, some of the, sort of success stories that I have are, companies like I've invested in logistics and transport, for example. Shippo is a company that I invested in the US. They do software for sort of integrating or identifying what is the best shipping rates globally. So if you're a D2C or an e-commerce company trying to find the cheapest way of shipping goods, they are a software. So they just became a unicorn. I went in as a seed investor. They just announced a round last week where they became a unicorn. So I took the sort of my thought process getting into that company was e-commerce is changing the landscape across the globe. There has to be companies that disrupt that or sort of provide services, and that's why they invested in that company. Another example I would give is, Chipper Cash in Africa. This is a cross-border payment fintech company. Based on work that I've done in the past where we've invested in banks in Africa, I knew that place or sort of region is sort of prime for disruption, and there was no fintech companies that have done that before. So when I had the opportunity, I sort of went in as a seed investor, and that company grew faster than what I expected. In a matter of a couple of years, they grew dramatically or exponentially well. So those were some of my examples. Tarun and I have worked on other deals like Fresh to Home. I'm sure he'll talk about it. That's another success story that I've seen. So I'll stop there.
Both are from same industry. Same background of investment. So I'd like to repeat the question to both so that people get a different perspective. Tarun, again, you have invested directly more than 10 startups. You have invested in 40 startups through a venture capital. So what is your, success in that? How you see the success? What is the recipe behind the success of that?
Well, I think James put it very eloquently that it's a high risk, high return business model that one has to look at. And if you talk to any typical venture capital and you go to them saying that, hey, I want to build a company which, 5 years down the road, today, which is starting off, but for 5 years down the road will be worth $100 million. The venture capitalists will say, look, this is not for us. We need $1 billion outcomes because, for every one company that is successful, there are probably 5 which fail. And, you have to write off that capital. So the theme for success is that you have to look at things which are disruptive, things which basically can give very, very outsized return if they are successful. But you also have to understand that you are putting capital at risk with the entrepreneur. It is not something which is liquid for a long period of time. Typically, when things start growing, and then you get to know that companies are growing in let's say a couple of years after you invest, and when they start growing, you want your capital to be there to compound for at least about 8 to 10 years before you want to kind of exit any business. Because if you exit early, you always see those businesses dominating and creating much more value as they go forward and compounding at a much faster rate. So these are some of the things that one needs to keep in mind as fundamentals of the business, as nature of the asset class, as they call it. Faiz mentioned about Fresh to Home. Fresh to Home has received a lot of coverage in the UAE itself. It was the company which raised the largest ever Series C funding for an Indian company, raised money from investors in the Middle East, right from Series A, Series B, Series C. You had sovereign funds from UAE, which is Investment Corporation of Dubai, and ADQ come in and invest in the company. Has been tremendously successful, not just in terms of the returns to investors, but also in terms of the difference it has made to society, in terms of providing a traceable and chemical-free food to over 2 million customers every year. So that clearly adds a lot of value to the society, which wasn't there before Fresh to Home was there. Another company is a real estate tech company called Square Yards. Square Yards has been a very, very innovative and very disruptive real estate tech company. Has raised very, very limited amount of outside capital. The founders are, very conscious about how much they dilute, how much when they raise capital, and the business has grown quite substantially. Another company that I have been fortunately a part of is an AI company which does artificial intelligence in the computer vision space. And in last year's Startup India initiative, by the Prime Minister, they were awarded as the best smart cities technology company. Company is again at an early stage, but currently there's some sovereigns from the region which are looking at looking at entering in the company. There is a certain amount of determination that the founder needs to have to solve the problems, because there will be a lot of problems which will come the way of the founder, and a lot of these problems are problems that you have to solve in a smart manner, so that you end up creating value for the society. So that there is that requirement that you're creating positive externalities as a startup.
Interesting story, and for the interest of members and the participants, Fresh to Home is a very successful story in UAE, and Mr. Tarun and Mr. Faiz was behind this success story, and we were fortunate to invite the entrepreneur of Fresh to Home during our last annual seminar. See, Tarun, if I come with a crazy idea, I have an idea, or say one of the member, we have many newly passed chartered accountants. They have also some ambition to have a startup in their mind. So if they come with a crazy idea to you, you straight away start funding, or you arrange funding, or you invest. How you, from an investor perspective, how you approach that entrepreneur as a me or anybody from this listening today?
Well, the terminology startup obviously extends, as you know, from the idea stage till the time the companies now become substantially large. They're still called startups, right? So I guess what you're talking about is at a very early stage when somebody just has an idea. At the idea stage, obviously, you need people who have a certain amount of domain understanding of that space. So let's say if it's a regulatory technology company, or if it's a B2C branded company, let's say producing branded jewelry. There are two very different things. They're both companies which are capable of, growing substantially. But the idea at that point in time, when it is just an idea, is something which somebody with domain understanding of that space is very, somebody who understands the problem from a very innate perspective is able to understand whether this is something which is making sense from a business perspective. Like a lot of these things, it is something that when it comes to me, I look at either whether I have the understanding to do it, or whether I know enough people who can help me understand that concept, but not just from a founder's perspective, but also, so I always invariably end up making this founder connect with people in my network who are experts in that industry, and sitting in on those conversations to hear the kind of questions that people ask, and trying to make an understanding of the concept from the perspective of a user as well as an expert from the industry who might look at that. Now this is obviously for a very, very early stage. Obviously the check sizes that you write for a very early stage are limited, because it's a very high risk, high return kind of business. So you never really want to go in, or you never want to test the depth of the river with both your legs. You put in one leg at a time. So you take baby steps in these. I'm sure Faiz has more to add on that.
Thank you for that. See, you have heard about CFS. You heard about love at first sight. So similarly, somebody come love at first sight. You see first time you like it. So same way, somebody come with a new concept, you like it. So you have an experience on that CFI is something you like it, and also you see that how you approach that particular any particular idea.
Sure, I think it's a very interesting question. I would say if you look at some of the venture pitches globally, some of the largest like platforms, they let you pitch for 5 minutes, right? So if you're not able to actually convey the story in 5 minutes, you're probably missing the plot. So like that, I tend to agree with you that if the founder is pitching to you and if you don't get it in 5 minutes, there's something wrong, or maybe it is due to deep tech that you don't have an expertise on. But most importantly, I think most of the time I see that in 5 minutes, okay, this is an interesting story, and then you dive deep. On the other hand, what I've also noticed is I made a lot of mistakes. Out of the 50 plus investments that I've done, a number of them are failures or have not really taken off. Some of them have wound down. So it's very natural that, especially when I went in the early stages of my venture angel investing, I made a lot of mistakes because I would just hear a story, invest without, deep diligencing. But over time, I've sort of, understood how to, even if I'm interested in the deal in the first 5 minutes, I would still do reference check, do some reading, will not say yes to the deal straight away so that you still have a room to sort of, negotiate or go back to the founder and say, look, I'm not interested or interested. So I think it's a learning curve. Probably I did the mistake of, going through that in an expensive way, but, this is an opportunity for everyone to learn, for the young, chartered accountants. So yeah, look, I think I from a deal perspective, I don't do now I don't do any pre-seed deals, right? When a founder is really coming up with an idea, I just don't do it because I don't know whether the founder is able to execute. As Tarun said, you're actually not just betting on an idea, you're betting on the founder. Because if you talk to 10 people, they have 10 ideas, everyone has ideas. There's no dearth of ideas. It's about, are you able to actually find a product market fit or a founder product fit? Has the founder got the right experience and expertise to really execute a plan? And most often what you will see is the founders don't have the tenacity or sort of the perseverance to really make it work, because startups, when they start up, the idea may be, just in paper, but when they execute it, it may look so different. And if the founder does not have the capability to really pivot and execute at based on market circumstances, he's going to fail. So I tend to avoid pre-seed deals. I tend to look at opportunities where there's a little bit of traction. The product is proven. It's not a beta stage. There are customers already, so that you sort of hedge your risk. As Tarun said, you want to go slowly. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You want to see, okay, if this is the product working, talk to the customers. Do they have credible customers? Do they have the right set of investors that are backing from the industry that those VCs understand? So all those, dynamics work to sort of figure out, okay, is this an investment that you want?
Interesting. And since you referred about a failure, as per a general perception that 90% of startups is a failure and 10 is a success. And the success 10% is like, it's cover all 90% of your failures. How you determine that project is a failure? How much time you need to decide that project is a failure? And what is your view on that?
Is it for me or Tarun?
Yeah, it's for you. So okay. I think since you will continue with what you said.
Yeah. So look, I think there are a couple of things that I've noticed. One, there are founders who really do deep diligence on the product. They have an understanding of the sector, so they've identified the pain point in the system and come up with a product. And most often, that could potentially work. There are other, and they're sort of really doing the diligence to make sure that the product is real before they launch it. So some founders take like 6 months to 9 months before they really launch the product. But there are other founders who are, taking the view that, look, I got to be first to the market. So they go first, test it out, and sort of along the way, adjust the product or sort of their offering. I think, from my experience, there are companies that I've seen in 12 months, they've gone bust. There are companies that, so that's one category. There are other companies that have really taken, let's say 2-3 years to sort of figure out what they want to do, but they've found a way out. That's like pivoting. And then there are companies that have gone like within 3 months, their revenue is like clocking like big time. In terms of failures, I guess it is better. There's something like in venture called fail fast. So if you're failing, you fail fast so that you don't burn enough capital. It's a different set of sort of failures that I've seen, but typically I would say you would see in 6 to, let's say, 24 months.
Tarun, what is your view on failures, and what is your view about exiting from a project which is failure, and you decide that okay, enough is enough?
Well, like Faiz said, the motto is always that if you have to fail, fail fast, because what really happens is that as an investor in a startup, you are not just putting capital, but you're also giving your time, energy, and efforts to the entrepreneur. And while the capital check may have been a one-time investment, the amount of time and effort that goes in when things are not working out is substantially more, because you're helping the entrepreneur rather than focusing on something which could be more productive, right? And if it takes too long to fail, you will never get back that time. So I think, there is there can be no simple definition of this. In terms of what is the appropriate time, but if you look at the example of one of the most famous startups from India, which has generated potentially one of the largest number of millionaires in India, Flipkart. Now, Flipkart was twice on the verge of bankruptcy, right? Twice the company was out of business, and twice, it survived. Investors came through, it survived. And, it has ended up creating the largest number of millionaires in India. So, there can be no single definition in terms of what anybody can say that, this is when you should call a startup a failure. It is a lot of it has to do with the tenacity of the entrepreneur and the team, whether they're able to pivot, they're able to find the right niches to target and focus on. But sometimes, the market is such that you are like a small fragile plant, right? A tree can withstand, let's say, a 50-degree temperature, and then, temperature dropping to, let's say, 10 degrees. A small plant will die quickly, right? You have to have the right ingredients all throughout for it to flourish and to come up, and then subsequently can, start giving fruits. So it's a lot to do with that. You have to provide as much kind of support that you can provide to the entrepreneur. Once you're in. There is no liquidity generally in these kind of investments. Very difficult to find liquidity. It's very difficult to find secondary opportunities in terms of where you can sell your stake if the startup is not working. You can only hope and help to help the entrepreneur find if it's not working, to find an exit with being sold off to somebody else, and recognize that, look, you have taken a risk with your capital, and there are going to be ups and there are going to be downs in this journey.
And John, if I may add here, I think one of the things that I've noticed is, in startups, it's not just the idea, right? If the founder does not have the ability to raise capital continuously, it will fail. Because if you look at most of the startups, they don't have profitability. They are burning cash to sort of, either capture market share or capture customers, and in the process they're growing. So as they do this, they need that fuel, which is the VC money coming in, being pumped in order to keep continuing to grow. So if the founder does not know, on one side needs to know the tech stack and how to capture market share, but on the other side we also need to sort of communicate well with the VCs and sort of investors, so that he has the ability to raise continuously and grow. If you don't have that capability, then, irrespective of, what traction you have, irrespective of what progress you're making, there are a lot of companies that fail because they just don't know how to raise capital.
Great, interesting. And see, many of our the new members, some of them would like to have a startup. Which area of startup where you can attract investments so fast? To raise fund, maybe, I think it's seasonal. Sometimes it's consumer, sometimes it's medical. So what is your view on which area can generate a funding very fast? And, is it technology or, I think I'll throw to you to Faiz, and then I'll go to Tharun on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think from my perspective, the way I think is, first of all, you want to make sure that you're investing in technology. There are a lot of startups that has a hybrid, offline, online model. It's sometimes you don't know whether it's a technology business or a non-technology business. So I think the ability for, some of these big companies like Flipkart, for example, as Tarun said, it's a technology company. It's actually making people's life easier by, helping them deliver goods in short notice and at a cheaper price. So there's a technology element to it. So those technology businesses can scale faster. So that's one thing that I, try to look at. But, it's also cyclicality, right? So if you look at India today, the education, the ed tech space is so hot, right? For example, Byju's, on the back of sort of the wave that's happening on the edtech space, Byju's been growing faster. They've been able to raise capital for themselves, but also using that capital to land grab, other operators that are potentially likely to sort of eat into their space. So edtech seems to be extremely hot because of the success that Byju's had. And a lot of new entrepreneurs are finding new niche in the edtech space. I also see a lot of opportunity within the fintech. Obviously, the UPI in India has made, sort of banking seamless and easy, where founders can come up with a simple API, provides, sort of remove the friction and provide products and services that sort of enhances a user experience. So, there is opportunities everywhere, whether it's edtech, whether it's fintech, healthcare. Obviously, the pandemic has shown us that, the healthcare, side of the, sort of the businesses are not sophisticated or sort of not advanced enough. And you see a lot of opportunities in healthcare. Also, the pandemic has thrown our ideas into remote working. It was never there before. So I think there is seasonalities, but also there are like deep core sectors like edtech, fintech, etc., that will remain for a long time.
Thank you. Yeah, do you want to add anything, Tarun, on this?
Slightly different perspective. Clearly, there are seasonalities, and there are times when you will have certain sectors which attract a lot of capital because of some early traction and some companies ending up doing well, and the market size being huge. There is an ability for somebody to come up with a model similar to what is there and imitate. But if your question was that what should our members look at, I think a lot of that comes from where is your domain understanding, right? I come from, I've done work in the banking space, and I understand, the changes that are happening in the banking space, whether it's the open banking developments that are happening worldwide, where people can write APIs and plug into any bank now. So, my ability to, I looked at a deal 6 months back. It was a UK fintech developing some trade finance software. And in the first meeting itself, I knew that, this is changing a lot of stuff because, I have audited banks. I've worked with banks for about 20 years. And I understand that, as a user of those banking services, I've seen that pain point. And, I could very easily relate to the fact what they were doing and, how they were going about their business. They've landed just a week back, they've landed one of the largest banks in the world as one of their customers. They've been in 6 months, Infosys is including them in their Finacle product, which is, one of the widest used banking software products. So you have to know your domain. You have to know what you understand very well so that you can identify what is the real pain in either the user or the consumer journey in that product, and then decide, whether you have the ability and you can build a team to solve that problem. And that would make for a very viable startup. And so, as chartered accountants, we end up being exposed to numerous businesses. This is one of the great things about the CA program, is that while you learn accounting, you also learn to put on the management consultant hat and go and see so many different businesses, whether it is banking, whether it is manufacturing, services, healthcare, you name it. And, everywhere, as chartered accountants, we get exposed to. And that creates that platform where, today with coding skills becoming as important as they are, if you can combine, let's say, an ability to code or to understand, what you need from a particular code to some domain understanding, I think that's where that's what could make a very, very interesting startup journey, I would think.
I think you have a very valid point. What you said is understand what you do. It's like, you are good in technology, don't go and start up a hotel. Do what you understand. So we have discussed about the areas of the startups which can attract investors. We discuss about the success. We discuss failure. If our member want to have a startup, and how we can raise fund. You have raised fund for many companies. So can you throw some light on how somebody new can raise fund? What you should follow? Setaran, you just carry on that.
Okay. So I think one of the most important things is that looking at the sector that you are in and identifying people who can be very credible angel investors early on in your journey is extremely, extremely helpful. So basically, let's say if I'm a fintech, startup, or if I'm let's say if I'm doing a startup in in the legal regulatory space, right? And if I get John as an investor who validates the fact that my product, which is for compliance with VAT, I have received investment from John, that adds a lot of weight to the fact that when I go and raise my round of money and I have somebody like John who's validated the product, that adds a lot of weight to the and makes it much easier to raise capital. And I think what's also very important is, while there is so much, there are a lot of platforms available to raise money from angel investors. It is very important in my experience, for startups to basically have some institutional capital come in early and be on the board to provide that level of credibility for other investors to come in and take a call on that startup in a short period of time. Because as Faiz rightly alluded, ability to raise capital is just as important as anything else. It is much more important if you are a B2C business which take a lot of capital to generate. It may be less important in certain enterprise SaaS kind of business models, or if you're developing a AI kind of model where the product is much more important, but it is much more scalable. But the initial capital requirement will be much higher before you see traction, right? So I think capital raising is an art. It's not everybody who's able to execute on that. You might have the most brilliant entrepreneur, most brilliant scientist. It's that Nikola Tesla versus, let's say, Edison. Edison was so successful, but we all know 100 years now that Tesla was far more, in terms of his technological thinking, was far, far ahead than Edison. But who remembers Tesla? Everybody remembers Edison, right? So the art of connecting and raising capital is very, very important for entrepreneurs. And I think get credible early entrepreneurs from the space that you are doing your startup in. Get institutional capital as early as possible. And I think that makes the startup capital raising journey much smoother.
Thank you, Sir Tarun. And CFIs, you work in Emirates Investment Authority, and it's one of the biggest company which funds. So will we come to you with an idea? Do you fund, or what steps we should take?
Yeah, so from an EIA perspective, we don't invest in venture. I told you the story that I tried to convince the investment committee, but they decided not to. So we're not investing in venture, but if you were to approach, you're talking about a scenario where you have an idea, you want to raise capital, you're approaching, investors that has an appetite for venture. So look, I think as a founder, as Tarun said, you got to bring very highly strategic investor into a cap table early into the game. What happens typically is that if the founder does not have that experience of having founded a company in the past, they sort of come up with the idea, pull in friends and family, and then get started. And, there's a little bit of traction, they're able to sort of prove the product. And at that point in time, they're trying to figure out, okay, where do we raise capital? And they're sort of left lurching as to, how startups are funded. I typically see that, the best founders, they're always socializing in the VC ecosystem or sort of the founder ecosystem. So you want to spend, more time when you're starting up as an entrepreneur. You want to sort of build a network within the ecosystem to sort of see, okay, who are the founders? Who are the various founders? How do they get funded? What are the various, platforms? As Tarun said, there are n number of ways to raise capital. Either you can go into sort of crowdfunding or into sort of VCs, early stage, late stage. So it's all about understanding how companies are built, how companies raise funds. If you're early, then you have to look at, angels, the credible angels that would add value to your platform, into your cap table, or bring in institutional early stage seed VCs that can, provide you credibility. Because what happens is, founders, the founders are always trying to shortcut the process or trying to get the money as fast as they can. But what you probably need to do is to think about, okay, it's not the first round of seed round that you want to raise money, but you're looking at, let's say, 3 to 5 years of fundraising, right? So you want to prepare yourself for the, let's say, seed stage to pre-series A to series A to series B, and that's built over time depending upon who else came into the previous round. So it's a very, as you said, it's an art, and you got to be, preparing yourself, forming the fundamentals right, and bringing the right kind of strategic angels initially, and then building on with institutional capital.
Thank you very much. And I think we are approaching our time. I think we have just 1 minute, but talking on startups will never end. We can go on for long. We can talk about many success stories. We can talk about many failures and lessons learned from that. I think you have. I have to ask 2 more questions. Do you have time, Pradeepji, or should I conclude here?
Yes, John. We can extend for 5 minutes or so. We can extend.
Okay, I'll take 2 more questions. One, Faiz, please answer to this question. Like, there is an entrepreneur want to fund, need a fund. There is an investor want to fund the project. They are in both 2 different places. They don't know each other. How they meet? Like a boy and girl meet somewhere, and they exchange flowers. How they are going to meet the proposal? How can they meet together and enter into an agreement? What's the forum you have? Like, for example, I want to invest. Say I have some money. So I want to invest somewhere. Where should I invest?
Yeah, so I think as an investor, you want to build your own network. You want to build. You want to be participating in forums and sort of angel network. If you take any city, I've seen in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, everywhere there are angel networks. So if you're an aspiring investor, you want to be participating in those angel network. Socialize yourself, get to know how companies are being pitched, how other angels are investing. Don't put your money by just in the first month. You spend some few you sort of learn about others, you learn about how companies are being funded, and learn from other angels that are investing into companies, because they have probably made the mistakes that you want to avoid. So I would say, as an aspiring angel, there are different ways to connect into the ecosystem. There are platforms like in India, there are, Indian Angel Network. There is like Let's Venture, and there are a lot of other platforms you can participate on, sort of getting exposure to venture. So that's, I would, within your city, try to build a network and see what the deal flow is, and you build on that. It's never a, one-time pony. You got to build over time. So if I have, let's say, $100 to invest, as an aspiring investor, I would break that down into, let's say, 3 years and say, okay, I'm going to invest $30. Every year, so that I have exposure, I gain some knowledge, and as I spend time, I sort of become wiser and wiser. That's from my experience. And from a founder perspective, as I said before, connect with, people within the industry, connect with people, other founders who've, gone through that, process. I always urge that, founders need to have mentors, both from an industry perspective, founders who have built businesses and exited. So you'll see that a number of the businesses in India, will have the Bansals, from Flipkart as board members or as investors. It's not for namesake, because they bring a lot of credibility, but also experience in, whenever there is a hurdle, because startup entrepreneurship is full of hurdles. So, you have to make sure how you sort of face that and, come through it, very successfully. So it's all about, spending more time, learning the ropes in a harder way, rather than just deploying and, becoming an investor.
Yeah, thank you very much. And one final question to CA Tarun, and after that, CFIs can answer that. What is your, advice to new chartered accountants who want to venture into a startup? CA Tarun, if you can answer, then CFIs will answer, and then we will conclude our session.
So there are two ways in which I can think of people getting, associated with startups. One is as investors, right? As kind of helping or investing in startups. I think what is very important is that what really happens is that people read all the headlines of different companies becoming multi-million dollar, billion-dollar exits, and people who deployed early. Let's say somebody deployed $25,000, ended up with $100 million, and they all seem nice on paper, very catchy headlines, and the media highlights obviously what is successful, right? For every one success, there are probably 9 failures, and once you fail, there's no counting of the bodies at that stage. So I think what is important is to understand your risk appetite, and also understand that it is not a asset class where you want to put your lunch money at risk. You want to put in capital which has very high risk appetite, because it has a lot of volatility in this asset class. So you have to necessarily take a portfolio approach. You might back the best entrepreneur. You might back an entrepreneur who just had a $1 billion exit. It is not necessary that the next one will be the same, right? So you have to be very careful. It is always advisable to take a portfolio approach from the investing side. Now, coming to the fact that, a lot of people want to, now the societies are much richer, and people want to do meaningful work. And there is nothing more meaningful than working in a startup where you are creating something completely new, not working for an organization which is just doing what has been done for the last 25, 30 years. This is what a lot of young people aspire for. I think what one needs to understand is that as any young person, there are two sorts of capital that one has. One is your financial capital, and the other is your human capital. Now, your financial capital necessarily, generally, is always low when you start your journey, right? As a young professional, as a young entrepreneur, but what you have is your human capital. But human capital is something which grows exponentially with experience. So, somebody who's worked for 10 years in a particular sector is far more valuable than somebody who's worked, who's just starting off in a sector, right? And the kind of domain knowledge that you build up over a period of time really kind of pays off, but it pays off after a long period of time, because it compounds in such a way that you don't see it every day. It's not like you can see the value of your human capital by opening and clicking on your portfolio of the stock exchange, and you can see the value of your human capital, right? It compounds in a very strange, unseen way, but it compounds for sure. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that when you start your journey, you have a very vast amount of human capital, and that human capital grows when you have diversity of experience. I mean, you want to focus on one thing, but you also want to diversify your experience base, so that when you reach higher levels, you are able to look at things from multiple standpoint, from very various different standpoints, and that's what I think, one of the good things about the CA program with the articleship and so on is that you end up seeing so many businesses from a historical looking at, audit from a post rear view mirror kind of a perspective, which helps you see that what kind of problems came in and how they could have been avoided, which is a great learning ground when you are starting up as an entrepreneur, because you know what mistakes that you can successfully avoid. So this is my parting bit for aspiring, young entrepreneurs or aspiring young investors who want to join the startup ecosystem.
Yeah, I think Tarun sort of rightly covered a lot of very interesting points. So I think from my perspective, what I would say for sort of the new chartered accountants, obviously there's a wave of startups happening. If you look at, I was talking to the some of the guys from IIT. If you look at most of the startups, you'll see that the founder is from an IIT or an IIM. If you, and to the extent that, VCs are only interested in investing in founders that have an IIT or an IIM background, because they come from an engineering side, they know how, coding is done, how products are developed, and so on and so forth. So that's very critical. So from a chartered accountant perspective, obviously, I think we are much more conservative. We look at the numbers, as Tarun said, we're looking at the rear view rather than the front view. So how do you, if you want to get into the startups, you need to sort of slightly change your sort of, perspective, in the sense that you want to be a little bit more risk taking. One of the things that, obviously we are accountants, right? So maybe, when you want to become a founder, what you need is basically the experience of building businesses, because we are always on the sidelines commenting, looking at the financials or operations and saying, okay, this should be done in a different way. But I think as a start, if you're an aspiring founder, you want to go into companies such as, let's say, Flipkart or new emerging startups, be on the product side. You may not necessarily need to follow the accounting side, because you've already learned that. But we have this mentality of, oh, I have learned that, so I should be in finance. Rather, you could go into product development, how, learn, the ropes of, how products are being developed, how they scale businesses, how do you capture market share. That will sort of hone your skills, not just from a financial perspective, but also from a product development perspective, to sort of say, okay, I have both sides of the coin in terms of fine tuning my capability to sort of, go and farm companies. So that's my, sort of a little bit of my 2 cents on, if someone wants to be an entrepreneur.
Thank you very much, CFIs and CA Tarun, for joining us today to part of panel discussion. And your the thoughts and insights were really, inspiring, and I think it will help the members who participate today. And I thank you very much once again. And also thank on behalf of the Abu Dhabi chapter, on behalf of our chairman, CA Neeraj Tolia, our ExCom, our committee members, agreed gratitude to our CA Ansra ji and CA Durgesh Kabra ji and our friend CA Pradeep Singh ji for giving this opportunity of the chapter. Thank you once again, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John. Sincere gratitude to Faiz, Tarun, and you for having a very elaborative discussion on a very important topic, startups. I said some things about startups in my initial talk, and as Tarun, in the last he pointed out that only success stories are highlighted and 9 out of 10 may fail. And that's what I think I read in the book 0 to 1. where, when investors invest in the organizations, they also know that every organization cannot become Facebook or Tesla or Amazon. So in some investments may become a failure, some investments may become a success, but it's very important that, the organizations understand that they have a sustainable and scalable business model. And I'm very much impressed, with a recent example of Patreon, where the founder who had a problem, and he is helping now so many people who are on his platform and are making money. And similarly, I was very much impressed with, example of Airbnb, where they thought that, okay, they have some extra money, and the things have significantly changed. So these startups which have grown, either they employ people in employment, or they have made many small business people. But I believe that, technology is a very important part, whether it's online business or offline business, that without technology, the things may not be that smooth. That's my personal view, and I think we need to leverage the use of technology in making a great startup. So thank you once again to you all for taking out time, and also Indrani, who I thanked earlier. I think today we had a great day because of you 4 speakers sharing your knowledge and insights. Tomorrow I would request participants to please be here. We have a very interesting session of 100 minutes, trilogy of success on leadership, networking, and upskilling, which will be moderated by CNL Leopard, and having 6 leaders from Doha, as we had leaders from Abu Dhabi today. And that will be the last session in this program. And thank you to our chairman, C. Ansrachuksa, and vice chairman, C. Durgesh Kapra. So for this opportunity, request all participants to stay safe, take care, good night, bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.